Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the new season premiere of Star Knight Research. I'm Beat Knight here, and today we're going to be talking about the latest finale of Creature Commandos. Now, for any of you who wasn't aware of it, this was the start of James Gunn's DCU, so to speak, even though I guess technically as of now, with the previous, some of James Gunn's previous DC work, it has been canon, especially with Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. I'll just say first off that for the show, I actually do find it enjoyable. It definitely does follow James Gunn's usual style with obscure characters going off against a very dangerous enemy, especially for one who is normally faced against Wonder Woman. But still, I say there is nothing much too negative, at least not for the beginning. I feel like there were a couple plot holes and a few changes that I feel like maybe could have been made, but it is the first series of what James Gunn's trying to do, so we'll see how that goes. Now, for any of you who have any questions or if you want to have any comments about it, feel free to do so. We'll say for some of the positives, for the set of characters that we got as far as for the Commandos, I would say I have nothing really negative against them. They were all equally very interesting. I would say for one of my favorites would be G.I. Robot. Because for that character, he was funny, and yet one of the more traumatic backstories, as he's just following his programming. Just unfortunately cannot tell between German Nazis and, well, neo-Nazis, as you see through his backstory. What I like about his episode is that we got to see small little Easter eggs of new characters that we get to see throughout the DCU. Because something tells me that we might get to see more of the Easy Company group that J.I. Robot was with in World War II. Maybe in some other flashback with J.I. Robot, or some other story that Gunn may have in mind. Not to mention the fact that with the scientist that was working on the robot, he was trying to develop the Middlemen, which is another group of DC characters that could get their own series, or at least be a part of season 2. And that's right, this show is definitely getting a second season. Let's see. Then with other characters, I definitely found the princess interesting because from the beginning, I felt like there was something off about her. But I wasn't quite sure because, honestly, until halfway through the series, I thought that Clayface was disguised as a princess. That there was some kind of big, elaborate plan between Clayface, Cersei, so that something is going to be showcased later on in some other movie or series. But I was mistaken. Because I think that's surprising, the fact that you would think that the main villain would be Cersei, but no. Because for spoiler alert, if any of you watching has not caught up to the latest episode, the princess was the main enemy the whole time. And that was a clever trick, because I thought that for a moment that the person that the bride saw when they returned back on Pokolistan, it was someone that was working for Frankenstein. But nope, that was just one of the princess's guards. Let's see. But it was interesting that as far as with the vision that we got, the princess was working with what I assume is Gorilla Grodd based on his attire. And I mean, there are a few other evil monkeys out there, but Grodd struck out the most to me. I was hoping to see why or what is she trying to do, but my only guess is that she wants to see more of the outside world and is probably tired and just had her fill of her country, so she wants to conquer more, wants to see more. I guess as far as the other characters, the only people that was disappointed was with Flag. I was hoping we would see a little bit more of Rick Flag Smear's backstory or something, or what's his deal. But he didn't really serve much of a role, just to basically, I guess, try to complicate things between, given that the princess was using him just to make sure that he would try to stop anyone from trying to kill her. Though I'm not sure about for everyone else, I think the worst character in this series might be Frankenstein, because he really doesn't serve much of a purpose. Like, he didn't do much of anything to make the situation better or worse. I mean, he was there just to serve as the plot as far as with the bride's backstory. And he tried to, and I feel like he is the worst person to try to tell the commandos to stop killing the princess, because unless Flag is going to be with him, then there is no way that they're going to listen to Frankenstein, especially the bride. And my God, the guy just does not get a clue. Just him chasing the bride for over 200 years, believing that they are destined to be together. I mean, even seeing her with Victor Frankenstein engaged to get engaging in all sorts of activities together, that wasn't enough for Frankenstein to really just give up on her and everything. As for that, I believe that the bride was only arrested just because she chose to be arrested. It may suck being stuck, because it probably may suck for her being in Bel Rev, but that's probably the only place where she doesn't have to worry about seeing him ever again, unless they're outside doing some kind of mission. But I think the biggest surprise was probably with Weasel. I didn't think I would care much about Weasel, because for the Suicide Squad movie, it was just in the beginning, and it was like, oh, a character who can't swim and supposedly die until you saw the post-credit sequence of the movie. Yet they brought him back for this movie, and arguably I think that's probably one of the more sadder backstories, that he's not a villain, he's not some horrible monster, at least not in the terms of a killer. He was just playing with children, and someone just felt like he was dangerous and tried to shoot him down, but then fire broke out, and the authorities basically ID'd him as a creature responsible. And I think that's one of the best things about this series, is that there is no specific label on these characters. Because with Suicide Squad, I think the biggest complaint that fans have was how the members of the squad, they're supposed to be the bad guys, people who have done supervillains, people who have done wrong things and know they did. They typically have no remorse over their actions. And the fact that they're being forced to do this to become somewhat anti-heroes. Although that's one thing I'll question, is that would you really consider villains? Would you really consider characters being anti-hero if they're being forced to save the world? That's my thought. But as far as for the Creature Commandos, They are neither good guys or bad guys. Well, I guess the only one who would be considered a bad guy in the group would be Dr. Phosphorus. And I only say that because with his backstory, that he is definitely another character of tragic circumstances, but as soon as he got his power, he basically murdered the man responsible, Rupert Thorne, took over his criminal organization, and ran things for a while in Gotham until apprehended by the Batman. So, so technically, I guess he'd be the only bad guy, and he doesn't show to care really much for anyone else. The only time we see compassion from him is playing with a little girl at the house that he was hiding in. But it's understandable that why he's a bit of a sociopath, given with losing his family, all just because of his research. But I think that's just more unique just to follow more obscure neutral characters, especially see what would they do in certain situations. Because for characters like J.R. Rolo, of course, he'll kill as long as it's Nazis. If they're otherwise, he'll just basically stand there and do nothing, or just talk about killing Nazis. Yeah, I mean, it was just funny the fact that he was just basically talking about he would not fall asleep while everyone else was asleep. He would talk about how many Nazis killed on this date and this other date. I'm just glad that as another spoiler alert, that he is back and gotten the Groot treatment. So I guess that's a good comparison that he is basically the Groot of the show. May not quite be the emotional quite the exact role of being like the emotional pillar, the more human side of things, but given that he's a robot, he can be brought back since he's Disney's repair. And much like Groot, he got bigger and bulkier. Though something tells me, I think, that after this season, we're probably not going to see Rick Flag appear here, because I would say Waller's probably going to keep this operation just with the creatures and with the bride being in charge, which I was not expecting. I figured just like with the squad, much like with Rick Flag Jr. on the Suicide Squad, Senior would be in charge, but I guess not. But at least as far as for Rick Flag Sr., we are going to see him a couple more times on the Superman film, as seen in behind the scenes photos, as well as Peacemaker Season 2, which I was hoping that during this show that Rick would find the truth about what happened to his son. But I think it'd probably much more interesting if it's discovered during Peacemaker. Because I'm not sure exactly what the plot's going to be here, especially now that this is all going to be more. This is now part of the new DCU, but either way, it's going to be very awkward and very complicated when Senior finds out about the fact that he's probably working with the man who killed his son, unless that's already been known. Hard to say, but something tells me that there's going to be a fight between the two characters. But I'll say this, as far as for the characters, I definitely like Creature Commandos more than Peacemaker. Because, I mean, Peacemaker has some charm, but mostly just because of how John Cena has performed as in this role. With everyone else, they're okay. The one that I'm not too crazy about is probably Vigilante, just because I don't know, Gunn's. I feel like Gunn's was trying to make him like the Deadpool of the DC in terms of personality. Just another masked vigilante that's no problem with killing and just being a full-blown sociopath, as well as talking like an idiot, which that's usually deadly. Though I think the reason why I agree with the way is just because of how the Arrowverse has taken the character in a different way. But we'll see how it goes for season 2. Plus, there are different people who take on the mantle of vigilante, so if something happens to this version, if someone else takes on the mantle, then that's fine with me. Now, as far as for the ending, it was not what I was expecting. I was hoping with Nina Mazursky that we would see something, because Waller, it's calling me crazy, but Waller made it seem like that if Nina is in water, she's able to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like I was expecting, like maybe she did like some waterbender shit or something like what Aquaman can do. But it makes sense because given how she talks and everything, it's like, yeah, she's not some half Atlantean or Atlantean creature just dropped on someone's doorstep. It's a bit ironic though that as soon as that we see her backstory, it ends where she dies as well. This show may be very Suicide Squad-ish, but at least don't do the usual stick of how Waller keeps threatening to blow their heads off. So it looks like that's not the case here, even though, yes, the remote does say detonate, but seems like all anyone get if they disobey or anything is just a shock. But for any of you watching, just let me know what your thoughts are on the show. Also on other DC-related news, for any of you who have not caught up yet, we are getting Jason Momoa now as Lobo. He's set to appear on the Supergirl movie that's supposed to come out next year. So I think that'll be something. For that is a role that even Jason felt like that's probably the role that he felt like he is the best person to take. I mean, there has been fan arts of him as a character for some time now. And that's definitely been a recent topic ever since James Gunn started the DCU. Well, I guess that definitely confirms that that if we do see an Aquaman, it's definitely going to be a different person. I mean, if they do bring in Momoa for Aquaman as well, I mean, they're definitely going to make some changes. For one, probably either some fancy wig, either shave his head a bit to make him look more traditional. So I mean, that'd be interesting, given the fact that when you look at for James's brother Sean Gunn, he has played a few different roles for DC already. You know, because as far as for voices, like he has done J Robot, Weasel, even with the Suicide Squad, he did some like the he didn't really act too much, but he's done all he was dressed in the costume and everything, did all the motion stuff. Then he's set to appear as also in the Suicide Squad. He was Calendar Man, and is set to appear as, I want to say either Maxwell Lord. I'm not sure if it's in the Superman movie. I want to say yes in that one. So yeah, that's quite a number of characters for Sean Gunn to play as. But I say for having Momoa as Lobo in the Supergirl movie, that should be interesting. That will definitely get more people to watch it. I'm not quite sure exactly what the story is because I'm not familiar with the graphic novel that the show that this movie is based off of. But my understanding, is basically Supergirl being stuck on a little piece of Krypton floating through space before she eventually comes close enough to Earth. So I believe that is a story. I have to look into myself. But there's going to be some kind of big conflict with Lobo. Then that should be something. And as far as for Superman-related news, coming pretty soon on the upcoming Puppy Bowl, James Gunn, along with his dog, they're going to announce a little sneak peek of the upcoming movie. So hopefully we get to see more of how David Cornsweet will perform his role. Because I was hoping with the teaser trailer that came out that we would see, I don't know, a few more lines of just talking to Crypto. But I get that but I feel like I may want to be surprised sometimes. But we shall see what happens. Now, if any of you have any favorite moments from the Creature Commandos that you want to comment, please feel free to do so. Or any other characters that you feel like you want to see, either in this show or in any other DCU projects. Because it looks like there's some secret one being developed that will come out next year as well. Not sure if that's the Clayface movie, or if it's something else. But as long as there's a good balance of quality and quantity here. Because Marvel made that mistake recently with making too many movies, and commercially it didn't do quite as well as it did in the past. So they should definitely ease up on that. So I hope that through one of these shows that we get some ideas, the fact that who's going to be, I guess, who's going to play on the rest of the DC superhero lineup. Because while we do have, I guess, for now, Superman, Hawkgirl, and two of the Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan, and John Stewart, I am curious to see what they're going to do in terms of with Batman, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and a few others. Because people have been going off the rails as wondering who is going to be the other Batman besides Robert Pattinson. Because it seems like they're not sticking with him. So let's see what happens. I mean, a lot of people want Alan Ritchson to play the role, and I could see it, but I don't know if that'd be my choice. Because I feel like for Batman, it has to be someone that can really go deep and dark. And even though, of course, after Alan Ritchson, he is very intimidating, especially when you look at Reacher. But his voice is just not deep enough. Like, it has to go very dark and mysterious kind of thing. That's why I feel like if he's offered a role for DC through James Gunn, then I think it should be like a somewhat younger Wild. So I feel like that's more his speed. But if he's not offered a role, I think that's fine, because Alan has done quite a lot for DC in recent years. He's played Aquaman in Smallville, Hawk in Titans. In fact, I think even before all this stuff happened with Batman, people were doing fan art of him as Shazam, and I think one time or another as Superman before it was finalized with David Cornsweet. So it's like pretty much for him, it's like the only characters they think they could do is either the very big, tough, big, brawny guys who are supposed to have black hair. So, I mean, if Alan comes back as Aquaman for the DCU, I think that'd be perfect. because he has like the right hair color and hairstyle for the role. And actually, another idea just popped up. I think besides Aquaman or Wildcats, I think it'd be kind of ironic if he got the role for Green Arrow in the DCU. Because when I look at Reacher, that while he definitely has a very dark, intimidating style, he has a very unique sense of humor, which Green Arrow typically does in other media. Because while Sir Cedar Mel, his take was definitely much more grittier and serious. In other media, mostly through animation and video games, Green Arrow has a few more quips. Like, he says some more funny stuff. And I feel like that would fit in Alan's wheelhouse. So I think that's my top 3 picks for Alan Ritson. To be, as Aquaman, Wildcats, or Green Arrow. If he is any of those guys, then I think that'd be fine. Let me know what you guys think of those choices. So as far as for Batman, I'm not quite sure who should take on the role. Especially if the Brave and the Bold movie is going to involve Damian Wayne, then it's got to be someone a little bit older, like maybe not mid-40s, maybe not early 40s, at least mid-30s. So, obviously for someone kind of young, but not too young. Because if there's going to be a Damian, then that means there's going to be like a Nightwing, Red Hood, and a few other Robins, depending on how far James wants to go for with that one. I guess I'm still trying to figure out exactly, with Superman and all the others, are they already established? Like, I know for Superman he's established, but I'm curious to see exactly how long has Superman been around in James Gunn's story. At least when his movie comes out, will this be a Superman that's been around for at least like a year or two, or close to 5 years? Because this apparently is a DC universe where superheroes have been around for a while. So that's why I think at some point, if they do a Justice Society movie, I think that'd be very interesting to look at, especially for different time periods. Well, I think that's probably gonna be it for now. Because if no one else has anything to say or any comments, then right now that's fine. I know it's Sunday afternoon and stuff, but if any of you have anything to say afterwards, please feel free to comment below, and stay tuned for more of Star Trek research, as there'll definitely be more discussions on DC related shows and movies, as well as other comic books, sci-fi, anything big come out this year, you name it. I guess besides that, if there's anything you want to discuss on this channel, please feel free to do so. Talk to you guys later, and have a good new year.